Hello, and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. I am so incredibly excited for so many things today for the incredible human that I'm about to introduce you to, and for the themes that we're going to be exploring today. And this has been a really inspired episode for me, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. So, if you are listening to this episode, my guesses about you is that you are growth oriented, you have big dreams, you're very curious, you want to live a life that feels like you're following your passions, your purpose. And what I know about people like that, because I'm like that, I know my guest is like that, so many of my clients are like that, is that sometimes when we are so growth oriented, it can be very easy to focus on the gap between where we are now and where we want to be. And I know for sure I have judged myself many times in the past of not being far enough along or, achieving some milestone by a certain time. And I am working towards my goals from a place of pressure instead of a place of joy and play. And as I'm thinking about expanding in my own life, I know that if I keep going down that route and back to those addictive patterns of focusing on what's negative, what's not working, me pursuing my goals is going to be a whole lot more difficult, a whole lot more exhausting, more draining versus if I can look back at my past with gratitude, being able to mine my experiences for what I've learned and how I've grown and feel proud and happy with both where I've come from, where I am now, that's going to give me so much more fuel for creating and pursuing the life that I want. So that's going to be a big theme of today's podcast episode. So if you too are like that, if you are growth oriented, if you have big dreams, and sometimes you get in this trap of judgment or shame or pressure for not being far enough along by now, this conversation is going to be gold for you. So stick around. And like I said, I am so excited to have our guest on today, Rebecca Fielding, who is a Baltimore native, and she has made many changes in her life around this theme of asking herself, are my eyes happy? And what that means to her is that she became an interior designer and created a business called Happy Eyes that came from hitting a point of total burnout in her life and deciding to pursue this direction of what lit her up, what made her happy, what brought joy to her eyes. And now she loves sharing this work and this passion with her clients, with her community, and helping them uncover that too. What holds meaning in their spaces, what ignites their eyes with joy and happiness. And I cannot wait for you to hear more about her story and hear more about her. And I personally have the pleasure of witnessing her journey as one of my coaching clients. And it's just so incredible, Rebecca, to be able to see you expand and grow and dive into this passion and continue to ask yourself this question of what makes my eyes happy. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Tina.
Mm. So I would love to hear the first question I always ask people is when you hear that phrase to follow your spark, what does that mean to you, if anything?
I think it's that following that first intuition that you have about something that you're interested in and just being really curious. I know that I've done this throughout my life. It's opened incredible doors.
Yeah. So it sounds like curiosity is a big piece of this and being willing to step through that door, to feel that nudge and be willing to follow it, even when it's just like a little tiny flame, maybe, of curiosity. So tell me more about some of the sparks that led to Happy Eyes.
Sure. I have always loved interior design, even since I was a little kid. And it's something that I did just naturally. It's always a priority, no matter where I was. I was a
Mm.
Peace Corps volunteer in Paraguay, and I was moving into my new house, and it was imperative to paint the walls a certain color. So I'm there in the 110-degree heat painting the walls. It's always just been a top priority of designing and creating a space around me that looks beautiful. And I had always sort of diminished it though as a career possibility. And I remember when I was in elementary school, my parents had a dinner date, and the man asked, he said, "Well, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I was like, "I want to be an interior designer." And he was like, "Oh my God,
Mm,
interior designer." And I was like, "No way." I was like, "I love wallpaper. I love furniture." I'm like
mm.
about all this stuff. And then he laughed. He was like, "No, I'm a surgeon." And because he's designing interiors, right? But at the time I
Oh.
was like horrified. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I feel like this is so like you're a surgeon like healing people in as a missionary in Thailand and I'm gushing about wallpaper." So
Mm.
I felt like I had always sort of sidebarred it as a possibility for a career, but it's something that I always have done throughout my whole life.
Was there a moment where you started taking this seriously? Because it sounds like you said if this was always a passion, it's something that you always was always meaningful to you, but you had these different messages that were like, this is not a real career or whatever. So what changed?
I think I got all like my personal catharsis when I moved into the house that I live now back in 2014. And I slowly, room by room, started designing it. And I had there was this moment in 2020 where I was at my job and they were going to redo the common space in this one area, and they needed like a group of people to do it. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm joining that group." And I
Mhm.
joined this group and I was so like on fire about it, almost to like scary levels where the people were like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong with this lady?"
Mm.
And I remember one guy looking at me and he was like having a hard time with the day job. He was like, "Need a break from the day job?" I was like, "Yeah." And I was realizing I was just, okay, I am like becoming like dangerous at work. Like we had decided this is the plan, this is what we're going to do. And then it kind of went to the higher levels and they vetoed it. So we're not going to do this. We're not going to do real plans. We're going to do fake plans. And I got so up in arms about it. I was like, I demand to talk to the vice president about this. So I like go in there and I'm like, guns blazing. And I was like, okay, I need an outlet. This is resuscitating to me. I need to do something. So it was then that, and this was right before the pandemic hit. So then the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, I feel like I just need to create an outlet because clearly, like, I have a lot of pent up creative energy around this and I need
Mhm.
to do something about it. So it was really during the pandemic that I finally had the space and to build a website, really. That was the first step because I wasn't paying daycare. It was like I had this like one opening, "Oh, not paying daycare. Now I can pay, someone to build a website."
Yeah, so it sounds like this was like a fire that could not be extinguished. And as soon as you
But
started feeding it like a piece of wood at a time, it just started like raging. And it was like, you
really,
must use me. I am ready to see the
yeah,
light of day. And I'm curious,
yes.
what did you have to maybe give up or leave behind in order to believe that this was something worth pursuing?
So it's funny because during, I think the year before that, or maybe the year leading up to that, I had joined like this life coaching group where it was geared towards like high achieving women. And I had reached this point of kind of like total burnout at work. Like
Mhm.
it was just like I just hit a burnout point in my life. And I was like, something needs to change. And one of the big themes in the coaching group was like, you're climbing a ladder. Is it up against the wall that you want to be climbing? And I was just like, no, it's not. Like, I don't
Mm.
know. This isn't where I want to go. Like, this is really just kind of paycheck. And I'm not trying to climb the corporate ladder, but at the same time, I'm the kind of person who I like to grow and I like to
Mhm.
change.
Mhm.
So I need to create another container for me to grow and change in
Mhm.
because this isn't it in the long term. Like I don't see
Mhm.
myself, I'm not going to become a CFO. I don't want to be a COO. Like I don't want to be at these levels. So I never felt any jealousy of anyone who had got a promotion or anything. I was like, great for them. I don't want it. So I started rethinking, okay, I want to create something that I want that I can grow into something that I really
Mhm.
so I had actually gone on a work trip and back in 2018 to Mozambique. And so
Mm.
the Happy Eyes came out of that trip. So I
Mm.
going to the artisan markets. I always have. It's like my favorite part of travel.
Mhm.
The market had two spots. There was the artisan market, and then there was the plants. And I love plants. I have so many
Mhm.
plants. So I go into the plant area and I'm sitting there and I'm so relaxed. I'm like, oh gosh,
Mhm.
this is amazing. I'm like bathed in light and all these gorgeous plants, and some of them I have in my house, and just seeing them in the native, and it's so nice in the native environment. And I I'm sitting there and the finance director is there. And I was like, I don't know why I'm sitting here on the plant side because it's not like I can take any of these plants home. She goes, it makes your eyes happy. And I was like, that's it. It's making my eyes happy. That's exactly it. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's the whole point. Happy eyes. And I was like, okay, I'm changing my name because I think I had created an Instagram handle and I was going to name my business Honor Thy House. And I was like, I'm going to change it to Happy Eyes.
Yeah. So it sounds like giving yourself, putting yourself in environments that had you look at things from a different perspective, that actually had you question, am I going down the path that I really want? Is this a career trajectory that is really calling to me? Am I climbing the right ladder? And it sounds like this inner compass is no, I don't want to be these other executive positions. I actually know what fuels my fire and how can I lean into that? And then it sounds like you gave yourself space, you were traveling, you were doing things that inspired you and lit you up, and you got these new sparks of ideas and inspiration that guided you to your next steps. Was there any other kind of like shift in identity or what you had to believe about yourself in order to say, this is worth pursuing?
I had to just debunk so many ideas that I had about what it takes to be an interior designer because
Mm.
it wasn't in the cards for me to get a degree with just the way my life was at the time. And I had an infant and I had a toddler, and it just wasn't going to work.
Mhm.
And so I had to rethink that. And I had another part of the coaching group that I was in at the time. It was all about because I was like, well, do we need another interior designer? There's so many interior designers. And
Mhm.
one of the examples that she gave, she was like, everybody loves pizza and there's so many different pizza restaurants and you're offering a different type of pizza. So what's your pizza like? And
Mhm.
I had to just work through so many mental blocks that I had
Mhm.
that told me that I couldn't do this. So
Mhm.
I also just I got cards. I just kept it real basic. Reached out a couple times, like on Instagram or Facebook. Hey, I'm looking for clients, and I had a couple people who were like, "Great." And
Mhm.
what I found, because the question that I had is, I love designing my own house.
Mhm.
I like doing it for other people,
Yeah.
and so what I found was that when I started working with people, it was so resuscitating to me. Like I loved it so much, and
Mhm.
it's kind of what got me through those early years, like in the pandemic, post pandemic. It was like, no,
Mhm.
I love this. I love working with people and I love helping them, redesign their houses.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I heard you've said this word resuscitating a few times now, and I'm hearing of being able to follow what's giving you life and letting yourself experiment and explore and trust those intuitive sparks of curiosity and be willing to walk that path and get that feedback of wow, yes, working with other people does resuscitate me. It does light me up. How can I lean into that and do more of that? So I'm curious as you're like hearing yourself tell this story and looking back, what do you want to acknowledge yourself for? Maybe even like that very first like part of this journey that needed to debunk these stories and these mental blocks and got over that hump to keep going.
I think it's just always constantly asking myself so many questions and then being like, is that true? Or here's another example. I kind of got to a place where I was trying to decide where I wanted to go with Happy Eyes. Did I want to just do what did I want to do consulting like I had been doing hourly, helping people here and there with whatever room project they're working on, or did I want to move more into the area of full service design?
Mhm.
So, and I was trying to just figure out what would be the next step. So I had through that coaching group connected with the woman in Texas who did it the hourly piece, and I heard times to kind of get her feedback. And she was like, this works great for me. And I love it. And I don't want to be doing full service interior design. And then so I had
Mhm.
to start really, okay, well, does that sound good to me? Or like, where do I really want to, what do I really want to do with this? Also, reached out to another, she had introduced me to this Facebook group that I joined, and then who is overseen by a woman who offers coaching. I set up a few calls with her, and it was great because I was at this point where I had the website and I was just so shy about promoting it. And I was like, I don't know if it's because I'm shy, I need to get over it, and I need to
Mm.
just like, put myself out there, or if I don't really like the website and I'm not comfortable with it. So she's
Mm.
looking at it. It was like, it was kind of through talking. I just don't like the website actually. I just don't,
Mm.
I had taken the pictures myself, so the pictures weren't that great. I just wasn't comfortable with it. And I just felt like it when I needed to just redo it. So she was like, there's this company that offers a template for interior designers, and I recommend like you get professional with the pictures of your house. That's like the basic. And was still trying to get over this idea of, but I only have my house. She was like, yeah, that's everybody starts there. Literally everybody. So like
Mhm.
get over that and go get professional with the pictures taken of your house. So I
Mhm.
did that, and it was really, and then I felt so much better. I was like, it gives me happy eyes. Now
Yeah.
my website gives me happy eyes. I tried with the way that it looks.
So, what I'm hearing is as you're looking back on this journey, that you're really celebrating being able to ask yourself these questions of, is this true? And what I'm imagining and hearing is the limiting beliefs. Are these true? Or is this true in the direction that I feel called to go in? And just continuing to come back to your inner compass and your inner truth and see if you can quiet the external noise and the external feedback to come back to what feels true for you. So is that like part of it?
For sure.
Yeah.
And almost getting rid of working through almost like sometimes I'd be ashamed. Like I'm ashamed to admit that I do want to create something that's like magazine worthy.
Mm.
Because the woman that I was talking to, she was like, "This is not Architectural Digest." Like she was like,
Mm.
she's oftentimes it's like the end result isn't necessarily like something that I am. You're not getting something that's going to go into your portfolio. I, but I kind of want that, you
Yeah.
know, and it's okay to want that. And I was also thinking, I want this to be eventually like my day job, what I do from 9 to 5. So I
Yeah.
think it's, yeah, definitely tuning into what are the things that are blocking me, and then also what is it that I really desire, and then leaning
Mhm.
into what
Yeah. And it's like giving yourself permission to want what you want.
I desire.
It's okay if you want the most gorgeous website and that's what makes your eyes happy. Like you get to want that. You don't have to build a website like anyone else. You don't have to build a business like anyone else. And it sounds like really at every phase of the journey, you really leaned into asking yourself for your own inner truth instead of building someone else's business and exploring what you want to build. And also, I heard a lot about this willingness to experiment and explore and try different things and follow the sparks and see where they led you.
Yeah, for sure. And then I had another pivotal moment with that particular coach where, so I got my website and she was like, this is what you need to do. I'm gonna tell you right now from my professional experience, you need to have a website that you love. She's like, I think you're going to feel a lot better. She said, I remember when I had a website and I wasn't feeling comfortable. I went to a client's house and I was like, apologize for my website to them. And she was like, you don't want to do that. Like you don't, it doesn't feel good. So I think you're going to feel better when you have a website that you really love. She's like, you really need to blog. Blogging is so important because people really want to hear your voice and they get to know you and how your brain works and how your design works. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to write this. It was like, who's going to read a blog? What is this, 1995? I'm like, I cannot believe this. I have a long history of saying that I don't like stuff that I actually, then I get into it and I turn out I like it. So I do
Mm.
this all the time.
Mm.
So I think I read that it was like the website had 3 spots for 3 blogs. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to write the blog. And and then I kind of got into it. I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. And I think the first blog post, I think I sent it out to 5 people to read and give me feedback on. And I was so nervous about putting it out there. And I was so worried about like grammatical errors and whatever. So I've gotten over that in the meantime. But what was interesting, and so when I had another call with her, she was like reading and she was like, okay, it looks great and everything. And she was like, at some point, you're just going to have to depersonalize it. Like you're just creating a
Mm.
pretty room. That's it. And I was just kind of,
Mm.
I don't, for me, it really is personal. Like your
Mm.
space should reflect who you are. almost like a
Mhm.
report, like, this is who I am. So I was like, that doesn't really resonate. So it was, I have these moments where it's okay, now I've kind of almost hit this turning point. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I answered my question. Or, and it's like clarifies what Happy Eyes is about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hearing of not only being able to recognize what feels like a yes, also being able to recognize what feels like a no. And again, coming back to that inner compass and not letting anyone else's opinion or advice override what your heart is guiding you to do, even if someone else doesn't understand or that's not the way that they would do it or anything else.
And I think lots of times I don't even fully understand. I think that's what's been so beautiful about this unfolding is it has been this very like self-revealing process. Happy Eyes is this external thing, external to me, and I'm starting to uncover and understand what it's actually about.
Yes. And that's something that I think about so often for me in the concept of following your spark is that we don't I was going to say always, but really ever get to know exactly where the sparks are leading us. Oftentimes, we just get this spark that's, I really freaking love like plants and I really love paint and all of these things. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to build a business with this or what that business is going to look like. I just know that there's something in this that is giving me life and I'm willing to follow that. I'm willing to let this be an exploratory process and know that the way I gather more information is that I walk the path. And it sounds like you're really letting yourself do that. Yeah.
Yes. I think that if you had gone and told me 2 years ago that 2 years, because it was about 2 years ago, that first coach was like, and now you need to define your process and your services. And I was like, great. And she was like, just get real clear, sit down, get real quiet, and just, type it out. I was like, great. And if you had told me 2 years ago that it's going to take 2 years, like this is going to be a 2 year
Mm,
process, I probably would have died of despair. But I'm
mm,
so glad that it happened the way that it did. And I didn't just try to do it quick and dirty because I I found then I was going through big personal changes. I was going through a divorce, and I was just like, time out. I need to just put happy eyes on the back burner for right now. Life has been so like changing and transitioning like the past few
mhm,
years. I've just been like trying to be very protective over happy eyes too, and
mhm,
not have it be like tainted, or I just want to just give it space. So I
mhm,
was like, time out. I'm going to put this on hold, and I'm going to allow myself to revisit building my services and building my process in, I think I was like April of 2024. So it was then that through like a series of coincidences, which is always how it happens to me. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And I went and I actually
mhm,
signed up for the same coach. She had this VIP group, and I signed up, and there was lots of material. And then she immediately emailed me to be like, actually, we're not active anymore. So
mhm,
I'll reimburse you, but you're welcome to have open to all the materials. So I'm just like going through materials and just kind of, oh, this looks interesting. And then I went down a rabbit hole of a recorded Facebook, I think live on marketing that she had done. She
mhm,
referenced the podcast. I was like, oh, that podcast sounds interesting. I go to the podcast, and then I'm looking at the podcast, and I was like, oh, that podcast looks interesting, where she was interviewing a woman who's an interior designer. She also offers coaching, and it's biographical design. I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. So I find her, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want. I was like, oh, I love this. So I reach out to her, and it was funny. She was like, I'm actually not offering that anymore. I'm the differentiator course. Like, I'm not, it was fine. She took clients through a process of determining their differentiator.
mhm,
And she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm not offering it anymore. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. She was like, but you can go to this other person. So I went to this other person, and she offered a lot of templates, like contract templates and everything. And I was just, no, but I want the course. I want the differentiator course. I
mhm.
actually went back and was just like, are you sure? Are you really, really sure that you're not taking on any other clients? And she wrote back, and she was like, I'm not, but I do offer a coaching group, and you've been really persistent. So I just have a good feeling about this. Yeah. So I got on the phone with her, and I signed up. And It was a coaching course that was an interior designer who has 15, 20 years of experience, a mindset coach, and a marketing guy. And so
Mhm.
between these three, like rotating between, you would churn through this process.
Mhm.
And I was really amazed at just, we would meet once a month. And it was like, I really needed that stretch of just once a month, get through the material and have everything sort of just slowly evolve.
Yeah. So it sounds like you said if you had told yourself this journey would have taken 2 years ago, you would have been like devastated and think of it as like a problem that it took this long. And yet now, as you're sitting here looking back, what's the biggest thing you want to remember? Or what are you actually grateful for about the pace that you've walked this path as?
I'm grateful because I came into it from this energy of what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What is Happy Eyes going to be doing? What am I going to be doing? And it slowed the whole thing down to be like, okay, first of all, she focuses on who are you as an individual? What is your history? What are your patterns? And what are you about as a person?
Mm,
My differentiator in the end was meaning. It's about
mm,
finding meaning. At the time, it just felt so almost just, it felt very exposed. I don't know. It felt very like raw, probably
mm,
because it was hitting a nerve. It's, yeah, this is exactly what it's about. And it was really through the process of stopping of what do I want to do? And then being like, hold up, what did I do? What have I already done? And there is something about, even though I created my entire house over a period of 10 years,
mhm,
and I live in it every day and I'm looking at the walls and everything,
mhm,
something about the process of taking pictures, documenting it,
mhm,
blogging about the room and the process made it all so much
mm,
more clear. It was like I kind of had to reverse engineer
mhm,
what I did to get there.
mhm,
And it's interesting because it was also overlaid with this process of someone who's coming at it from biographical design. And I always saw your home as a story of of your life, been and favorite memories. But I think that what I hadn't really considered is about all the symbols in our house and the meaning behind every single thing. The charcoal palm tree pictures that my dad made that came from my dad. I love the story behind it that he created them when he was in the Air Force
mm,
in Fort Worth, Texas. And he really wanted to do something creative and he didn't have any money or time or like a lot of material. So he was like, I'm just going to do charcoals. So
mm.
it's like this kind of persistence, creative endeavors. That's
Mhm.
like about it.
Yeah.
So just thinking about like the stories behind every single thing that's in my house.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like looking back, you have much more appreciation for the journey instead of making up this story that somehow it taking 2 years like meant something had gone wrong versus it's I just got to experience this beautiful journey and go on this transformation within myself that me experiencing is now actually what is creating my process so that I can share with my clients from deep embodied personal experience that I wouldn't have been able to just pull out of thin air and write down in 30 seconds on day 1. Like you needed to have all the experiences that you had and that is what added the depth of richness and wisdom and knowledge that now gets to fuel the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think doing these things parallel of determining my differentiator and then also blogging about my house and documenting it visually and putting these things together, just seeing how clear it was about how everything that I had picked had like meaning behind it. And a lot of it too came from people who come to my house and it's very mid-century modern and I had tons of plants and like boho is the
Mhm.
style. So people come in and be like, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing boho, you're doing that. And I'm like, oh, that's not what it's about. And I was like, I would kind of get really like inner frustration of that's not what it's about. This is not what I'm doing. That's no, I'm not. And I'm not going to just go to someone's house and do exactly this because it might not
Mhm.
be appropriate to them. So then I had to be like, okay, what am I doing? Like, okay, for other people, it's also not appropriate for me to go and be like, you're going to get this and this because you're going to get my brain in your house. That's not appropriate. So,
Yeah.
how do I replace my data with their data? How do I bring clients through a
Mhm.
process that it's like getting to the root of who they are?
Mhm.
The one thing that my coach did with me, she did this process where basically it was, and I'm sure you've done like the values ladder before. It was like that, but different. And
Mm.
the way she did it was like it gave you a list of your values and the things that are true to you and your like 10 things. And it was just like, oh, wow. And I can see like actual pieces in my house that represent like all these different things.
Mm.
So thinking about taking clients through a process where they're getting sort of to the heart of what they're about and what are like their most precious memories and the most things that are most important to them and having
Mm. Yeah. So, yeah, it just sounds like you've learned so much from your own journey and really clarified how you want to work with clients, how you want to work through this process. And one thing I'm curious about, and I feel like I know the answer based off of what you've shared already in this conversation, is has it been something that's easy or comes naturally for you to look back on your past and find like gratitude in the journey? Or is it something of like I shared at the beginning of this conversation, do you ever struggle with also of focusing on how far you have to go or the speed? Like I know you talked about 2 years ago, you would have been like, 2 years is too long. What is that like for you when you're pursuing goals? What do you feel like you focus on more? Where do you get tripped up?
I mean, I get tripped up every single time in every single stage, all the time. Same thing. Like, I'm just still going through it. I feel like I have finally, after 2 years, kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, this is what Happy Eyes is. This is what I did. This is the impact that it's had on my life. And this is what I want to do. And this is what it's about. And now it's like, Happy Eyes has been born.
Mhm.
Took a really long time. It's like
Mhm.
my fourth child now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like I should be like out there hitting the road.
Yeah.
That baby should be like walking. That's
Mhm.
not the way that it works. So I
Mhm.
just like constantly having to slow down and tap in once again to patience and
Mhm.
appreciate where I'm at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I said, if anyone is listening to this and you can relate to this experience of feeling like, rushing ahead and constantly chasing this next level and trying to skip where you're at, I want to acknowledge like this is a normal human experience. It's something that for so many of us is a pattern that's ingrained or that we're just so used to. And we think that's motivating of like trying to search for this thing or trying to get to this next level. And oftentimes it's because we're looking for some external thing to validate us of, oh, when I have this level of business or when I have this level of success, it's going to mean something about me versus being able to create that internally and look to our past of all the beautiful things that we've already created, all the ways that we've grown, all the ways that we're already enough and valuable, and have that be the energy that fuels you moving forward instead of moving forward from a place of pressure or a place of force. So, yeah, I know that we all experience challenges, right? And being able to look back on the journey with appreciation instead of pressure is something that for sure has made a huge difference for me. And it's why one of the biggest things I focus on with my coaching clients is something that I call Phoenix mindset and being able to look back on our past and look at where we've grown and how we've transformed and what we've accomplished and how we want to acknowledge ourselves and find evidence of our own greatness and our own capacity. So I'm curious what impact that has had on you to really strengthen your mindset in that way and build up this practice of being able to focus on what you want to celebrate instead of where you're lacking or where you might be behind.
I think I also have to keep remembering that things are unfolding exactly the way that I wanted them to. And I think it can be stressful. And I think that the part that we get tripped up on is when we start comparing ourselves to other people. And this is actually one of the things that with my very first coaching group that I joined back in 2019 was like, it was just like, keep your eye on your own paper.
Mm.
Your own paper. Don't look at what other people are doing because it's discouraging. And you think, oh man, look at them. They were there. I mean, sometimes it's really helpful to look at where people are. And like when you feel like a sense of like jealousy or envy, it's like feeds you information. Like I was never jealous or envious of people at work who were getting promoted. I was like, awesome, great, good for you. But then when I would see like a designer that I've been following for 20 years, like all of a sudden they have a furniture brand and I'm like, damn, I'm like, oh, down that route, like it's still like this dream, this unrealized dream. Like I wish I was on that path, right? It can be really like tempting to do that. So I have to keep reminding myself that when I started Happy Eyes, it really came from a place of I have to do something with this. I want to do it. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make this tiny little baby step. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to follow it. I'm just going to keep doing the next thing. And I came at it from a place of I want to build a really solid foundation. I'm not in a place at all in any way, shape, or form to leave my job and dive into this full time. I was like in a state of complete burnout. I had so much work to do on myself just to get myself to a better place in so many areas of my life. I was like, this is not the time. But what can I do right now to build it up?
Yeah. So it sounds like being able to notice, like our emotions give us information, and that feeling of maybe it's jealousy or envy can give us information about what we actually value and what actually matters to us. And instead of focusing on someone else's journey, turn the focus back inward and ask, what matters to me? What do I want to pursue? What's the spark that I want to follow? How can I honor that and let go of comparing myself to anyone else's journey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like this at every stage, every single stage. It's just kind of like repeat. I get to the end of one phase. Like I just got to the end of one phase where it's okay. I've gotten to the heart of what Happy Eyes is about. I'm finally overcoming my own shyness of talking about it and saying what it's about and getting out there and starting. But then once again, you're at the bottom of the mountain, right? And it's going to be up here. And trying to like break it down. Like, I want to build up my client set. It's okay. But first, there's all these other steps that I need to take first.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating every time. You're like, oh. So, yeah, I guess it never ends. And that's what they say. It never ends. So,
yeah. So if you were to like whisper some words of wisdom or guidance to yourself, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what would you want to whisper in their ear? And also, this is for anyone else listening who might be at that phase that you were at, that they have a dream, it feels far-fetched, it feels out of reach. Like, what would you want to whisper to them?
I would say also it's just like me keeping like once again like the focus of Happy Eyes is, does this make my eyes happy? Am I happy? Like kind of really keeping that. I've been also trying to keep that at the heart of Happy Eyes. Like keeping Happy Eyes happy. I'm doing this because it's enjoyable, because I like this phase, not because someone told me to do it and I got to slog through and I have to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, yeah, there's like little pieces of that we have to break through and we have to like work through, but keeping it enjoyable.
Yeah.
And holding it loosely and seeing how it folds. And all these things are like so hard to do because we want.
Yeah, but it sounds like being able to enjoy the journey and not hold on to it with a death grip that it's so tight that you're strangling any oxygen out of it, but giving it some breathing room and being able to play and experiment and explore and enjoy the process.
Yeah, for sure. I think I know this year I had just like personally, it was scary because my regular job is in international development and finance and administration. And we had all these cuts come through with USAID being eliminated. And I spent the past few months just shutting down all these projects and was very sad and seeing so many people lose their jobs and organizations are being hit and organizations are going under and being like, oh my gosh, this is the moment where does this mean that I'm going to be jumping into Happy Eyes full time and I'm going to like sink or swim and have to rely on this. And I've also just been really careful. Like, I don't want to strangle it. I don't want to suffocate it. I don't want to put it under financial pressure. Like, I want it's still developing. It's still like this little baby. I don't want to send it to the factory to work at age 10,
Yeah.
you know? I want it to just develop. So I think that so much of it has been really trusting that things will unfold as they need to. And it was like a really scary year. It had so many transitions, like on a personal level and at work. All of so many things were spiraling like totally out of my control that would have a massive impact on me. But place finally in October, end of October, where things have unfolded and actually it's all for the better.
Yeah.
I still have my job, but actually they created a whole new position for me that's like much more appropriate for my skills. I went down to part-time to make more room for Happy Eyes, moved towards a nesting situation. So with my parenting plan with my kids, that allows more room for Happy Eyes.
So I'm really hearing of trust the process. And I'm curious if there's anything that you want to share. There were so many beautiful analogies and metaphors that came through even on the coaching call we had earlier of what you realized, and you talked a little bit about it, of this like phase and how you're relating to yourself and your business right now in this particular chapter, and why that's so beautiful, this like phase that you're in right now.
I think it's always for me, it's like I need to find the appropriate metaphor. What is the appropriate metaphor for this situation right now in order to understand where I'm at? And it's like Happy Eyes was just born and this is a newborn and I just kind of want to have skin to skin for a little bit and just enjoy it. And babies don't need anything. They just need to eat and sleep. And as a mom, it's such an exhausting process to give birth and you're still transitioning and everything. So I think that I went into this fall being like, okay, I'm part-time at work. I'm like going to go hard. This is what I'm going to do. And being like, no, I'm not going to do that. Actually, I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then the opportunities flow anyway. And I could sit here and be like, what should I be doing? And they'd be like, well, no, I actually already did a bunch of stuff this week. And things are unfolding and there's more opportunities.
Yeah. And that's the beauty for me in when we come from this energy of gratitude, of acknowledgement, of celebration. It's not about not pursuing goals. It's not about not having dreams and just being like, I'm just going to do nothing. It's like when we're fueled from the inside out, that creates energy and momentum and propels us forward. And we're that much more open and receptive to signs, synchronicities, ideas, opportunities than when we're forcing things and trying to push this boulder up a hill because we're putting all of this weight and pressure on ourselves of feeling behind and not enough and failing and all the other stories that we can tell ourselves.
Right. And then we don't have Happy Eyes then.
Yes, yes. Speaking of which, for anyone listening to this who's, wow, I want to go on a transformational journey with my home and be surrounded by things that make my eyes happy, how can people learn more about the incredible work that you do?
You can find me on Instagram. It's happyeyes.design and you can shoot me a DM.
Amazing. So, yeah, if you're listening to this, like I said, and you want to experience that for yourself, I cannot recommend more reaching out to Rebecca, looking at all of the incredible work that she does, and knowing that, again, this is about taking yourself on a journey and surrounding yourself with what makes you happy. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your wisdom and your inspired work. I know that it's going to continue to impact so many people in so many ways. So just thank you for following this spark on your heart.
Thank you, Gina. The honor is mine.
Yeah. And is there any last thing that if people were to remember one thing from this conversation, what would you want to leave them with?
I think just like the mission of Happy Eyes is really think about what makes your eyes happy. And then this transcends, I think, every area of your life because it gives you really good feedback of are my eyes happy of what I'm looking at right now? When I look in the mirror, are my eyes happy? And really just trying to really proactively fill your life with the things that make you happy.
I love it. Well, my last question that I always love to ask, because so much of what following your spark is exactly what you just said, of following just what makes you happy right now. Is there any random thing that is making your eyes or your soul happy right now that you've been like surrounding yourself with?
I think that what I've been doing is just going to store, like taking myself on these artist dates and going to museums and going to interior design stores and going to thrift stores and just playing and just having fun.
So remembering that fueling ourselves is so important. Play, fun, these are the things that fill our tanks, fill up our energy, and give us that much more fuel and momentum to do the things that we love. So I love hearing that. So, yes, again, thank you so much for being here. And the last thing I want to share with you listening is that if you resonated with this episode, if you want to be able to look back on your past and your journey from a place of gratitude, from a place of celebration, and actually feel that deeply in your bones and let go of feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and not enough when you think about your goals, I created an event called Becoming, and it's on 11/11, and it is all about everything we've been talking about today. Really spending time to look at your past to see how far you've come so that can fuel your future. So, if that speaks to you, if you're curious about learning more about that, go to ginakasbar.com/becoming, and I would love to see you there. All right, my friends. Rebecca, thank you again for being here with me today. I can't wait to share this episode.
Thanks, Gina.